This is the 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, and it's in the beautiful Alto Blue exterior, which this is actually the first time I've seen Alto Blue in person. I kind of like it. It looks really sharp. Like, the darker blue on the Mustang has like always been one of my favorite colors, so seeing it on this thing on top of that, it's pretty cool. There are a few small changes from the 2022 to the 2023 model. Nothing too crazy. There's some color changes. The big one would be the introduction of the Heritage and the Heritage Limited. And those ones look a little bit funky, a little bit unique, but if you're going for that retro styling, it is available there as an option. Now, I do want to thank Formula Ford for giving me access to this thing to shoot the video for you guys. You can find their contact information down below. You can find the build link for this specific one. On top of that, you'll be able to find technology walkthroughs where I go over everything you can find in the steering wheel, cluster, the media screen, things like that. But let's dive into it. Now, the Bronco Sport Big Bend, this one has what's known as the Big Bend Convenience Package. It's going to give us things like our park sensing systems and some niceties on the inside. So there are some pieces of technology inside of this one that aren't standard, but it's going to be a matter of preference, budget, things like that. Like, what's important for you to the ride? We've got our beautiful Bronco lettering right in the grille. We do have our LED headlamps there. Now, one thing, this one does have fog lamps, and that's because this one has the added convenience package. The fog lamps are not standard across the entire Bronco Sport lineup. It is available as an option. It's a nice option, but if you don't need it, don't care about it, you just don't have to get that package, but it is all packaged together with some other things. Now, when we get inside of the Badlands version of the vehicle, we would have the option for a front-facing camera on top of that. Underneath the hood of the Bronco Sport, we do have the same two engine options that were available for the 2022 model. So it's either going to be this, the 1.5 liter i3, or there's the 2 liter turbo that you're going to find as well. Now, the 1.5 liter you're going to find in the base, Big Bend, Outer Banks, and then the regular Heritage, versus the 2 liter you're going to find in the Badlands, and then the Heritage Limited. And that Heritage Limited were the new ones for this year. Power-wise, this 1.5 liter pushes out 181 horsepower, 190 pound-feet of torque, while the beefier 2 liter pushes out 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. So, like a little bit of a difference in power between the two of them. If you were to ask me personally, I would probably go for the Badlands. The Heritage Limited, the funky colors, I haven't seen it in person yet, but I do know that the Badlands has been fairly reliable. Now, there was a recall for the 2022 model that hasn't followed through to 2023, but that was specifically for the 1.5 liter engine. So there haven't been any known recalls that I know of for the 2 liter. And the 1.5, it affected like a very minuscule number of potential vehicles. I think it was like 0.25%. So if you looked at the numbers, it was like maybe 3,000 vehicles that were potentially affected by it. But I mean, reliability though, it still is there. So you've got your regular manufacturer's warranty. There's the 3-year, 60,000 kilometer basic. And then you've got the 5-year, 100,000 powertrain. So you are covered from that perspective. And if you need added peace of mind, you could always extend the manufacturer's warranty if you really wanted to, or you could just look at leasing the car instead. And then at the end of the lease, make your decision if you wanted to buy the vehicle outright or give the dealership the keys back. Small break-in period that you need to worry about looking at the Bronco Sport as well. Now, a few things. You want to make sure you're at least maintaining it, so change your oil regularly, but we've got easy access to our fluids and battery and things like that. But very minimum, make sure you're changing your oil. Ideally, you're taking it in for all your regularly scheduled maintenance as well to get the best possible life out of your ride. You're buying something that's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you might want to take care of it. The Bronco Sport Big Bend is typically going to have 17-inch wheels. Those are the standard. But this one has the optional 18-inch instead. A little bit of a different look in the actual wheel itself, which is kind of nice. Matter of preference. I do like the darker style. Like, I don't know what it is. It just draws me to it. Like, the same in the Mustang. Like, every car I've seen with darker rims or wheels, it looks that much sharper, I think. Very similar to last year's model. We do still have the option for the fender flare kits. Whether that's going to be the same type of black look or if it's going to be painted body color is going to depend on which version you get. But it is cool because it makes it pop that little bit more and gives the Bronco Sport a little bit more of an aggressive look. like its big brother, the full-size Bronco. Towards the back end of the Bronco Sport, we've got a little bit of symmetry there front to back. So we've got our Bronco lettering along the back here, Sport just underneath, our familiar blue oval along the bottom left. Now this one, because one of the added packages, also has the reverse sensing system, so that is available optionally inside of the Bronco Sport. On top of that, this one also has the tow package. So we've got our receiver, and then underneath we've also got our 4-pin provision there too. Now, when we look at towing inside the Bronco Sport, inside of the 1.5 liter, we're maxing it at 2,000 pound towing capacity. Inside of the 2 liter turbocharged, we're looking at 2,200 pound towing. So decent towing for it. If you're looking for something a little bit more, you could look at the Edge, you could look at the Escape, or you could look at the Maverick. Maverick is going to top out at 4,000 pound towing capacity, so pretty dang nice. The Escape is up to 3,500 pounds, and it also got a refresh for the 2023 model, which is kind of nice. But a few things about the Bronco Sport. So right along the back there, we've got 2 separate buttons. So we've got one, and then we've got another one for the liftgate. And it's strictly going to be manual. The Bronco Sport doesn't have the option for a power liftgate whatsoever. Be kind of nice, but not available there. Now, we do have a nice amount of space in the back, but before we get to that, the back here, if you're going to get a little bit messy, we can easily pull this thing out if we want to in order to spray it down. We do have the option for rubberized trays, and even rubberized seat backing there too is available from the factory or aftermarket. So a big benefit there is that if the seats are down, we got a whole bunch of like muddy boots and clothes and things like that, we can just rip it all out and spray it all down, which is great. When you get into the Badlands version of the vehicle, you also would have the option, well, you would have rubberized flooring, but that's strictly in the Badlands. Now, a few things to point out. We do have a little button here, and that's to control a little overhead light, which is kind of cool. So we can kind of adjust that out, which is nice if we're going to be setting up a tent, tailgating later on at night. Speaking of tailgating, we do have a little bottle opener along our passenger side there, which is kind of neat. A little light along the right, and we've also got a 12-volt power point back here. And then the Bronco Sport has some pretty neat shelving options that are available. So there's a pretty cool tiered one where we can kind of slide in and out, move it up and down, etc. So that is available as an option. Now, lifting this bad boy up, we also do have our little white spigot along the side, but we've got our full-size spare tire. This specific one has the upgraded 18-inch wheels. This spare is only a 17-inch, but I mean, it still is nice. It's a full-size spare tire. And we've got our jack stand right underneath. You could also call Ford roadside assistance, and that's going to be available for the base of the duration of the powertrain warranty, which is kind of cool. We've got a little bit of storage along the side there too, and the storage trays are technically removable if you want to store some more things yourself instead. Now, the seats. You could technically fold it down from the back here. There is a little button along the top. We can push in order to drop the seat. And I mean, when we do that, we've got a boatload of space back here. Like so much space. It's like this thing is more like the older style boxy Escape that we got. I think it was like the 2000s. I think it was up to like 2008 or whatever the case may be. So this is more like that. So if you're a bigger fan of like that boxier style vehicle, Bronco Sport's definitely where you're going to want to be. If you're looking for something with the newest, latest, greatest technology, the 2023 Escape is where you're going to want to be instead. But I mean, it's a matter of preference. Now, I could reach that just because I'm slightly taller, but I mean, if you're not, it's so easy to fold this second row seat down. So with it back up, we've got a little button along the top. We would just push, drop, and you're set to go. Filling up fuel is the exact same looking at the Bronco Sport from 22 to 23, just along our driver's side, and it's got a capless system, so unlocked cover. One thing I would love to see is a Bronco Sport hybrid. It's built off of the same platform as the Escape and the Maverick, so I'm like, oh, fingers crossed we get a Bronco Sport hybrid too. But still, the fuel economy inside of this thing, the 1.5 or the 2 liter, is pretty respectable. Looking at the size of the Bronco Sport, so I'm 6 feet tall, more than enough space to see over the car, but it's got a good height to it, good length at the same time, nice and nimble for going through trails and things like that. We do have our roof rack rails, And then we've got a series of other types of accessories that are available. So if you wanted a tent, an awning, things like that, you've got that flexibility, which is kind of cool. Now, a few other things. We've got our 5-digit number pad along the door here. So we could push the bottom 2 numbers to be able to lock. And if you want to get access to your vehicle, just enter in the 5-digit factory number, or you could just create your own if you'd like to. We do have our blind spot system on our side view mirrors and intelligent access. So when the vehicle's locked, we just slide our hand in. As long as we've got the fob on us, we can easily get inside. Straightforward.
I love how spacious this thing is. Like, I'm used to driving sedans, so like, and coupes and things like that. So like, see, it's just like the ridiculous amount of space inside of this thing. It's wild. So let's go through some basics. So I'm gonna just seat comfortability. Like, it's nice. We've got a few different types of seats, a few different color schemes and things like that that are available, depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But here's the fun part, is that if you're not in love with the seats themselves, let's get some seat covers. There are a ton of options available that can just like change up the dynamic look of the ride. I would recommend looking at a company called Cat Skins. And they're essentially going to be full seat covers for the front and for the back seats. You can choose different colors and different schemes and things like that. It's really, really cool what those guys can do. You can find a link for that down in the description of the video. But super comfortable. This is nice. This is nice. Now, we inside of the base and then the Big Bend base setup, we would have manual seats, but because this one has the convenience package, power adjustable seats for the seat itself. That's for the driver's side. The passenger side, we've got a bar in order to swing the seat forwards, backwards. So whether you have power seats, etc., is going to depend on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in and how you've packaged the vehicle out at the same time. But the seat itself is fairly comfortable inside of the Big Bend, so we are just a 2-way adjustable headrest, so just up and down. But you saw there, so we can move the seat forwards, backwards, up and down. We've got lumbar support on top of that. But I like all the highlights. We've got this like nice metallic highlight along the door that follows all the way through it, wraps around the center stack, that same metallic look. Down low too, which is really cool. I'm easy to please sometimes, but we do have all of our base buttons here. Now, this is kind of interesting because I was literally just in a Maverick as well. So hard to get into one of those things, by the way. You can find the review video down below, but it has the same basic elements, and that's because the Maverick, the Bronco Sport, and the Escape are all built on the same platform. But makes sense, relatively easy. But we've got this like nice weave texture that follows all the way throughout the dash there too. It's neat. I like the look of it. Moving to the side, we've got a series of different buttons to control our side view mirrors, basic window up and down. And then from here, we also do have some cup holders. Really useful. By our left knee, we've got a series of buttons. So we've got one in order to unlock our liftgate. It unlocks it, but you still have to manually lift it yourself. We've got a series of other buttons in order to be able to adjust what's going on with our lighting. I always just recommend keeping it in the auto setting. And then there's a button for our fog lamps there too, if yours is packaged out with that option. There's also an up-down switch, and that's going to be to increase or decrease the brightness of either the cluster screen or the Sync 3 media screen. But wheel inside of the Bronco might be heated depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. If you do have the heated option, you'll find it just right in the climate control settings in the center stack. Manual telescoping as well throughout the entire lineup. So in, out, up and down, create that perfect position. Click it, log it back into place. So along our steering wheel left side, we do have a series of buttons. So at least regular cruise control, but we do have the option for adaptive cruise. And adaptive cruise is our set it and forget it cruise. Along the right side, we've got a series of different buttons to navigate through that little cluster screen. But if you're looking through for like an in-depth walkthrough on how to use all these different buttons, go through the cluster screen, go through the media screen, you'll find that down in the description of the video. But nice and straightforward. We've got our bucking Bronco right in the middle of the wheel. Nice glossy highlight down along the bottom of the wheel too, which is really nice. It's good. It's good. Now, it doesn't matter if you're in the base or if you're in the Heritage Limited version of the vehicle. You're going to get the Sync 3 media screen there regardless, which I think is fantastic. Now, a few things. There is the option for factory navigation, so you might have yours with or without it. I love factory navigation because you pay for it one time, and then you've got updates and things like that that are available, but you're not having to worry about using your phone data. Now, if yours doesn't have factory navigation, you can hook up through Android or iPhone devices, and that's a wired connection, but you can use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze through iPhone, and then Google Maps through Android devices, which is really, really useful for road trips and planning and things like that. But we've got volume, hold on, I gotta do this. Volume rockers, tuning rockers, and things like that. We are gonna be push button start inside of this vehicle, and that's the same way across the entire lineup. Doesn't matter which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. 94.9 FM.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
There we go. Save me. Little Metallica. Oh, I love Metallica. Love the band, love the song, but listen to the audio. That's at half volume. And that's just the base speaker system inside of this thing. We do have the option for the Bang & Olufsen, so that higher speaker setup in some of the higher trim levels. So if you're an audiophile, you're gonna absolutely love the higher audio sound, or the better audio sound, I should say, inside of that upgraded system. This is still pretty nice though. But some basics in the screen, we've got AM, FM. You would technically have the option for Sirius XM. You could hook up over Bluetooth in order to be able to stream music that way if you wanted to, make phone calls and things like that. So you don't have to be connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you just go over a regular Bluetooth connection instead. But we can easily hook up phones, we've got some apps, and then we've also got a series of different settings like driver assistant settings and things like that. One cool one, we've got our blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's gonna highlight orange and let us know. We've got things like trailer sway control and things like that. So really, really nice. Shifting down underneath the screen, we've got the auto start stop button. And that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. There's no way to disable that without potentially voiding your warranty. So you unfortunately have to turn it off every time if that drives you crazy. But just underneath those controls, so we do have a tuning rocker to the right. We've got a series of other settings there as well in order to adjust what's going on with our screen. So a hot button press to get into some basic settings, change songs, radio stations, things like that, or we can turn the whole screen off. Shifting down, we do have a little tray there too, which is kind of nice. Series of different climate control settings. We do have the option for heated first row seats, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that we're in and how we have it packaged out. Moving down, if your phone supports wireless charging, we do have a wireless charge pad down there too, which is kind of nice. We've got two USB ports, so a traditional USB, there's a USB Type-C, and then there's also a 12-volt power point. Really useful. Now, shifting down from there, very similar to what we saw last year, we've got our rotary dial shifter instead, so our park reverse neutral drive, and this one does have the low gear. Underneath that, we've got our parking brake, the auto hold setting, and then a series of different GOAT modes. So go over any terrain. And the modes that you get will depend on the version of the vehicle that you're in. So because we're just in the Big Bend version of the vehicle, we've got our normal, eco, sport, slippery, and then there's also the sand mode on top of that. And each mode, it's going to play with your driving dynamics. So it's going to play with the traction stability control. When you're in sport mode, it's going to hold on to the RPMs a little bit longer, so it gives you a sportier performance. You'll definitely notice it when you're in either the 1.5 or the 2-liter engines. It's honestly like it's just night and day difference. If you've got a Bronco Sport, put it into sport mode and then gun it. You're going to love the way that it feels in comparison. We've got a few cup holders down there. A little armrest that has two USB power points. So there's another USB Type-C. So we've got a boatload of power points in here, which is great. Shifting over, we've got that same like weave texture along the side. And then we've got a little glove box there with a decent amount of space. Shifting up overhead, this does have an auto-dimming rearview mirror. We've got some basic cabin control lights there as well. Sunglasses holder, which is typical Ford styling. We've got our visor with a business card holder. We've got our HomeLink system. So if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can easily program it in. And then the visor, business card holder here. We do have our vanity mirror with built-in lights. And then this thing is going to extend out to block all of the sun. And it's not overly, like when it's fully out, it's not overly flimsy either, which is fantastic. But this specific one doesn't have the optional sunroof. And the sunroof is available inside of the Bronco Sport. Obviously getting it time of ordering from the factory, but it's yay big. So it's not going to stretch across the entire roof like what we're going to see inside of the Escape. So it's not a full panoramic, but it is nice that it's available as an option. It doesn't really affect head spacing whatsoever. So matter of preference, you do have to have specific packages in some trim levels of the vehicle in order to be able to get it. So because we're in the Big Bend convenience package, we could technically get that roof. It's just this one doesn't have it. Matter of preference, but it's nice either way. I like it. Like the seat actually isn't that bad, like comfort-wise. Like I said, we've got a series of different looks and styles that are available. Like when we get into the Badlands Ebony Roast interior, I think it looks absolutely beautiful. But like I said, if you don't like the color scheme that you've got, you can just throw seat covers over them instead to kind of give it that little bit more of a unique look. But this is nice, and this is a 2-row vehicle, so let's hop back to that second row and see what's going on space-wise. The second row of the Bronco Sport, it's fairly spacious. Like it's really spacious, which is great. Like I've got a boatload of headspace here, good amount of knee space, good amount of foot space. This is nice. And like even so, like 3 full-size versions of me, you wouldn't have a big issue. The big one would obviously be like in this middle seat. My feet, I'm kind of like off to the side, so I'm kind of like man spreading a little bit here, but a little bit tight here. And like I am a little bit broader shouldered, so could you get 3 full-size versions of me in here? Probably. It'd be like a little bit tight though. Middle seat isn't super comfortable. The outside seats are really comfortable in comparison. But unlike the Escape, the Bronco Sport seats, we can't bring them forwards or backwards at all. So they are locked into place. But we do have anchors and tethers and things like that. So you could kind of put the child seat in the middle and then everyone else is set from there. And we do have a split bench, so 60-40. So we could fold down one side or the other if we wanted to. But a lot of the same highlights that we saw along the seats follow through to the back. Well, the doors and the seats and things like that. Like that gray stitching we saw in the first row follows through back here. That's obviously going to be dynamic depending on the interior that you've got. But we've got that same metallic highlight with the weave texture along the door, our basic window controls, and we've got some speakers back here too. Outside of that, just behind the armrest, we've got 2 more power points. So another USB Type-C. So we've got 6 total power points in here. We've got 2 behind the armrest, 2 in the armrest, and then 2 at the very front of the vehicle, which is great. Up overhead, we've got some cabin control lights. We've also got some assist handles, driver, passenger side in the second row, and then strictly on the passenger side in the first row. And we also do have a clothing hook on both sides, which is fairly useful. Other than that, along both the driver passenger sides, we also do have, you heard there, zippered pockets. Useful, and they're about yay deep. Not bad. That's, like I said, driver passenger side, and then even in between. So the seats themselves, there's little pockets there too, a little bit of extra storage. Other than that though, straightforward. We've got cup holders back here. As you can see, cup holders there, so 2 individual cup holders. And like I said, the seats, 60-40 split for the bench, so you could easily drop down one side or the other if you wanted to. Ooh, that didn't close properly. There we go. Click it, lock it back into place. Seating comfortability is honestly, like, it's not too shabby. And like I haven't been in one of the cloth seat varieties of the Bronco Sport in like a year. So actually sitting inside of this thing, it's not bad. I do wish the Bronco Sport had support for second row heated seats. Unfortunately, not going to find it available there as an option though. But I mean, if you need a 4 or 5 seater, the Bronco Sport is a good choice. Like I said, this one is also built on the same platform as the Maverick and the Escape. One thing, I did mention the Escape got an upgrade this year. So it's got a nicer interior. They also moved into the Sync 4 media screen. So the Bronco Sport was released 2 years ago. So this is the 3rd model year, which means that we're probably looking at an upgrade 2025, maybe, for that year model. Which would mean that we're going to get the Sync 4 media screen there. If you're looking for a walkthrough, like if you want to know what the Badlands version of the vehicle's like, or if you want walkthrough videos on any of the other technology stuff, you'll find it down in the description of the video.
And that was a look at the 2023 Bronco Sport Big Bend. What'd you think? It's a nice, nimble little ride. Step above some of the features you're going to find inside of the base, but I like it, especially in this Alto Blue. I think it looks really sharp. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care. This type of light black that's going to be default, or it can be painted to match.
And this is just the base speaker system inside of this thing too. So you do have the option, you've got the option